the guide to assembling the robot kit thing. We have these two main chassis plastic parts, two pinion gears, one cam gear, and then two larger gears, battery pack, assorted bolts and washers, switch, two zip ties, tiny heat shrink, these pre-prepared longer, thicker rods with the little hoop, and this DF robot micro metal gear motor with a 50:1 ratio. So in this video I will guide you through the assembly of this contraption and then kind of show you maybe where it could go from there. So firstly, I'll move everything aside. I'm going to start with these parts. So, open the gearbox. Okay. Now this tiny gearbox is going to drive everything. You'll see in this gear there's a flat side. You match that flat side with the shaft, align it, and press it in. It stops around there, so you can maybe see that. Step 2, there's a cavity on top of this. Now you align it so the plug sits out the back and simply snap that in place. And so the plug's sitting out the back, everything's aligned, and the gearbox spins freely. This is the second gear stage we'll be preparing. So you can see this is a nylock nut. It has the nylon inside it, so it holds its position. And you're going to align that with this little gear, press it all the way in, like so. And then this goes through this gear, again, aligning it and being sure to press it all the way down. If it's a little hard, don't stress, because we get to tighten everything up as we go along. Grab two washers, place them down. Now grab the previous part that you assembled, slide that through, and they should align. Two washers on this side. And now by hand, with the nylon side facing out, I'm just going to thread this. Now, the trick with this gearbox, we over tighten first. So that's much too tight, nothing really wants to move. And then we back it off just a little. And now things can move freely. Maybe a little more. Apologies for the shaky hands. I've had quite a few coffees today. Okay, now for the second gear stage. First, we're going to get these little countersunk screws and press them through. Okay, it's going to need to be screwed through the gear, so it's sticking out on the side with the spacing. Do that just all the way up. Now we're going to thread a nut down that and just quickly tighten it. So tightening it against the plastic so that won't move at all. And then we're going to do the same with this one. Probably need to use the screwdriver again. So yeah, make sure you're going through the part the right way as well. Unfortunately, there is no two ways to do that. Thread the nut down, and again, tighten it. Okay. Once you've got those two parts ready, remove those nuts. to thread that right through there. Press it down. And align the hexagon with that. Now this can be kind of quite tough, this one. I'm going to just use the edge of the table really quick, just to press it till the face is countersunk. And we actually want it to go further than that, but we will get there in a minute. So 3 washes here, 1, 2, 3. And then we grab our little gearbox, and this is actually going to go on the side where the motor's drive is, so like that. And then we're going to put 2 washes on this side, 1, 2. Once you place these 2 washes, time to place a nut right here. I'm going to grab that with some pliers. And now we're going to over tighten this. And you'll see that is actually starting to sink in. You'll feel, oh, it's way too tight. It's sunk in all the way, maybe about 3 millimeters. And then we're going to back this off. Now I can move it again. Then thread the gear on. Now it might tighten up a little, but like we're gonna have to make that work. Thread this nut on. So now there's a nut each side, and mine feels a little tight. This is a little bit tricky, this part, so we want the cams, see how this one is that way? We want this the opposite way. So if you can see it in that perspective, one's towards me, one is towards the wall, and it's almost like the opposite. Now, reaching in with some pliers, you want to tighten these nuts against each other. So trying not to shift those positions you just predetermined. And if you can hold that inner nut, grab the outer nut. Cool. So make sure these are still opposite. And if you can move it with your hand lightly, a little bit of play is really good with this gearbox. We want everything nice and loose and easy for that little motor. But yeah, make sure everything's not too tight, and there you have it. That's the gearbox stage. This next phase is the battery pack. So pull the wires out, cells in it. So that's ready to go. Make sure these aren't touching while you do all of this. That would not be great. Not the end of the world either. And then we're going to get your chassis. We're going to place this like this, pulling the wires through the rear. And then this shelf goes on there. Now, nothing really clicks until these screws are in place. So these 2 screws go down there. And then you tighten them up all the way. So, still freely moves, cables come out the back nicely. That's that phase. Now onto the wiring phase. So you have this little switch, unthread the nut, ignore all those washers, thread it through there, put a nut back on. You can use some of the washers if you want to, but they're not entirely necessary. And then use your pliers to tighten that up. Grab the wire with the plug that came with the motor. Now these wires are going to run along the back here. So, making things not too tight, we're going to just pull that like that. Cut it around about here. And then we're going to cut the black wire this is from the battery pack, cut it about halfway. And this one is also from the battery pack. I'm going to put it over the switch like this, cut it there, and then strip it. So give that a little twist. Probably give yourself more wire than this. I'm a professional, so don't mind me. And then thread it through the center pin on your switch. Now coming in with the soldering iron. We're just quickly going to solder this. Nice blob of solder, that's connected. Put the iron down. And then with the red from the motor, I'm going to strip the end of that. Twist it. Now you can choose either side, it just actually determines which way the switch switches. So thread it through, same procedure, solder. So there you have it. So 2 pins on either side. It can be on that side, as long as the center pin is one of them. Now we're going to connect these 2 black wires. So unwind this, and we're going to give ourselves, make it overlap quite a bit there, so that you have a bit to actually twist them together. Get the heat shrink tubing, thread that down, whichever one's the longest. Then we're going to strip this end. Oh, I unplugged it. And strip this end. And twist these together. So that's a nice, very sturdy connection there. Could probably test. Oh, it works. Everything is correct. We'll come in and solder that. So just putting solder all the way down that connection. And if there's little bits that stand out like that, time to clip them off, because this little heat shrink tubing needs to fit over that connection. Then come in with a lighter or a blowtorch. Careful not to melt all the plastic, because 3D printed plastic melts quite easily. Then aim those cables down the rear. Grab the 2 small zip ties, and there's now cavities that actually guide them around. So you thread that through, and that one through, and then zip tie these wires neatly in the back here so they don't get caught in the gears while everything's spinning. Okay. I really like to trim these as close as I can. And there you have it. That is the main chassis assembly, and you should be able to switch it on and off. If it moves a little and jams up, that means that you've actually over-tightened things, probably. If for some reason later you're unhappy with the direction it's spinning, you can actually pull this plug out and with some tweezers lift those and swap the pins, and the motor will spin in the opposite direction. This is the final phase of assembly. So these are the drive rods, which will be pushing, crawling, moving in these linear kind of motion. Grab these washers, put 2 of them, 1, 2, thread this rod through that cavity, put it on top. One more washer, and then a nut. And just do that up. Don't super tighten it because it'll loosen the whole connection in there. We're going to do the same for the other side now. 1, 2. Put that through. Put that. Final washer. Tighten that nut. And there you have it. With these outputs, you can see how they overlap. There's ways to make things walk, there's ways to make things crawl, there's ways to make things climb, and generally move about in a kind of demented manner. There you have it. Or you could do that. Some final notes on this design, really quickly. There are these two holes, I believe. There's 2 holes on top up here. And they're, I think, around 2.6 millimeters wide, which means a 3 millimeter screw threads in perfectly. So when building a chassis around this, or like disguising your creature, you can screw into these as points to add a little bit of body, keeping in mind not to get things tangled in the gears as they operate, since fabrics and stuff would, or your fingers, kind of stop everything from working. Okay, enjoy your critter.